Right, okay, so welcome to module 3, and this is all about how to hold space for children's emotions, okay? So let's have a look on the next slide. So have you ever felt like this? Okay, I'm sure many of us have, okay? We just don't know what to do in the moment. We've tried everything, okay? And, you know, I'm sure most of us have been here. So holding space can help you feel like this. It will help you feel more connected, and you will be able to understand how your children are feeling. And you will respond differently in a more loving, caring, compassionate way. So what is holding space? Holding space is a therapeutic approach, and it's used to help children express their feelings in a safe space with a listener. And this listener can be a parent, a childcare practitioner, whoever's able to hold space for the child. And when we hold space for children, we are physically and emotionally accepting of all the child's feelings, okay? And we do this without judgment or control. So in this moment, we are fully focused on the child and how they are feeling. We are not focused on ourselves and our own emotions. It is all about the child. So what are the benefits of holding space? So here are some of the benefits. It helps children express emotions. Children need to express their emotions, and they are not able to express their emotions using language like we can as adults. When we've got a problem, what we'll often do is we'll go and talk to our friends about it, talk to our family about it, and that way we're trying to process what's going on, trying to work out how to deal with the problem. When children have problems, they will often play out their problems, and that is their language. That's what they do. And sometimes when these feelings build up inside, they can't really come to us and communicate what is actually going on for them. So instead, you may get a lot of expression of tears, crying, rage, temper. You know, you may get a lot coming out from them in expressing these emotions in this way. So, you know, another thing is also holding space. It allows us to strengthen our parent-child relationship because we're not pulling against them. We're allowing them to feel these feelings. We're allowing these feelings to come out. And we're saying, it's okay for you to feel these feelings. I am here, okay? It improves listening skills because what we're doing is we're listening to our children's feelings. We're listening to their tears. We're listening to them cry. And what they will do is they will be able to listen to other people's feelings a lot easier because we're modeling it. And it increases the child's language of feelings, like I spoke to in the last part. The more we notice our children's feelings and tell them how they're feeling, they will be able to add this to their inner vocabulary, and they will be able to notice how they're feeling, and then they will be able to tell us as they grow up. And it helps us to remain calm, okay? If we're holding space, imagine I'm holding space and that's it. It's about them. It's not about me. And just having this knowledge will help you to remain calmer. It improves empathy because what you're doing is you are trying to understand how your children are feeling. And, you know, you're trying to put yourselves in their shoes. So this is improving empathy. And it also increases emotional intelligence. As I said before, when we're holding space, I hope that if we can teach our children how to do this now from an early age, they will be able to do it as they grow up, maybe for their friends, maybe for their parents. They'll be able to do it for us when we need someone to hold space for us, because we do. And maybe when they grow up and to have their own relationships and their own families, they'll be able to use this way of listening to feelings. It also diffuses tantrums because we're not fueling the fire, okay? We're not trying to stop it. We're just listening. We're sitting by, listening, waiting, and being with them and understanding how they feel. Holding space provides comfort because they know that someone's there next to them. You may not need to do much, but you're there, and that's the most important part. Co-regulation is important. Your presence and your energy will transfer onto them, even if you're just sat there. If your energy is heightened and you are angry, they are going to get more angry, and we're just going to go really explosive. So by just your energy being calmer, this will help to de-escalate them. You can also feel calm and confident when you're responding to big emotions. So holding space will help you know how to deal with this situation. Think, I know how to deal with this, I'm going to hold space. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to just hold your hands out in front of you like this, okay? And I just want you to just hold them like this. And I just want you to close your eyes for a second. And I just want you to imagine that you've got a space in front of you, okay? And you are holding this space. And right in the center of this space is your child, okay? And all I want you to do is just hold them. When they're experiencing this really big emotion, just hold the space for them to feel how they need to feel, okay? Don't react to them, just hold it. And what will happen is they will slowly be able to de-escalate, and they will come round and they will be able to connect with you a lot easier, okay? So it's all about just holding the space for their emotions, okay? You can open your eyes now. But I just find it's a lot easier when we use our hands to really picture a way of holding space for our children. We're holding them during this time. We're not trying to fix, we're not trying to change it, we're not trying to stop it, we're just holding them, okay? Let's move on to the next slide. So I found a really wonderful clip, and she's really inspiring. So have a look at this, and I just feel that this clip really sums up how to hold space for children and how to raise emotionally intelligent children. So let's take a look.
Just for a moment, what I'd like you to do is I want you to imagine that you're 4 years old and you're on the ground and you're building a tower, and you're really proud of this tower that you're building. And then the next minute, a kid comes running along, kicks over your tower, and you are outraged. And you feel these feelings bubble inside you of hurt and panic and frustration and helplessness. And just in that moment, an adult comes in close, gets down low and says, "Honey, what happened?" And you see in their eyes there's compassion. You feel that their body's calm and regulated. And then all those feelings come bubbling out. Frustration, the anger, the helplessness. And this adult goes, "Oh, yeah, tell me all about it." They don't try and fix it. They don't say to you, "Don't worry, you can build another one." They just let you feel all that you're feeling. And then they open their arms, you snuggle in, take another deep breath, and then you feel better. And then you get back to building your tower. Now I'd like to see if you can remember what it was like when you were 4 years old. And perhaps at a time when you felt angry or sad or scared, or you didn't understand what was going on. And how did the adults in your life respond to you? Now, if you were lucky, the adults in your life would have given you lots of space to express how you feel, to listen to those worries and hurts, not try and fix what was going on. But for the majority of people, we had the opposite, which is that we would have been told, "Stop being so stupid. You don't need to cry." You might have been sent to your room, to the corner. You might have even been hit for making a mistake. Now, why am I talking about children and feelings? It's because I want to talk about mental health. Because our current mental health landscape sees a steady increase in psychological distress. We see that 1 in 8 Australians suffer from some form of anxiety disorder, and 1 in 10 Australians with depression. And even though we are doing better at understanding things like mindfulness, empathy, compassion, resilience, and vulnerability, I see that the increasing rates of distress in adults is deeply rooted in the imprints we received as children around how to express feelings and emotions. Now, it would be very easy to blame our parents for what they did or didn't do, but our parents were doing the best job they knew how. They were either doing what was done to them, or perhaps they swing so far in the other direction and say, I'm going to do it the exact opposite. I see that the issue lies really in the lack of emotional literacy that we have in our culture. We don't teach parents how to respond to children's feelings and emotions with empathy and compassion. We don't teach it in our kindergartens. We don't teach it in our schools. Somehow we still value IQ far more than we value EQ. I wonder if from the beginning we were told that childhood defines adult mental health, whether we would take greater care to nurture a child's soul. Now, my work over the last 16 years with families around attachment and trauma and connection has shown me that there's usually 3 ways that we learn as kids to deal with feelings and emotions. The first one is repression, which means that as a child, if you learnt that it wasn't safe to express your feelings, perhaps you got shut down, you were told to stop crying, perhaps you were given a look that made you draw everything inside, then you were going to have to find a way to cope with all those feelings and emotions. And for most people, they learn to repress them. They push them down deep. Most of the times, they disassociated. Now, the impact of that on a child is that those feelings stay there. And then as adults, those feelings can turn up again. When life throws us a curveball that's got similar themes to stuff that happened when we were a kid, those same feelings come up. But this time, our repression mechanisms look like this. They look like another glass of wine that we drink. They look like hours mindlessly scrolling through Facebook. Or they look like making yourself so busy at work that you don't actually have time to feel. The other thing that we might learn to do is move into aggression, which means that as a child, if we felt really powerless, if we felt scared, if we grew up in an authoritarian environment where we didn't have a voice, where we couldn't say how we felt, then those feelings again would bubble inside us. And at the point where they would tip over, when we often felt frightened or threatened, they would come out in aggression, in rage, in loud words. And sometimes you might have been labelled as naughty, too much, or trouble, when really all you were doing was responding to your environment. And then as adults, those aggression tendencies turn up in bullying behaviour. They turn up in harsh critical thoughts about ourselves and others. They turn up as violence. Then the third thing that we learn to do is expression, which means that if we grew up with an imprint that said, feelings are welcome, it's okay for you to express how you are. I will accept all of you, the happy bits, the sad bits, the joyous bits, the bits that are angry, all of you is welcome. I'm not going to try and fix, I'm just going to hold. Well, then what happens is as adults, when things feel hard, we reach for our journal, write down our thoughts. We call a friend and say, hey, can you listen to me? We go for a run, we do some yoga, we speak to our therapist, and we find a way to lean into the feelings, we feel them, and then we let them go. Now, I am a mum to 3 big, beautiful teenagers. And when I first became a parent, like I'm sure many of you here as a first-time parent, you have absolutely no clue what you're doing. And when it came to understanding feelings and emotions, my game plan was going to be, I'll just keep them happy all the time, right? Because it's really easy to keep kids happy all the time. And if any of you know who have kids, that's a ridiculous thing to do. It is impossible, it's ridiculous, and it's incredibly exhausting trying to keep people happy all the time. So I learned pretty soon that that wasn't actually going to work. And I needed to find a way to help my children thrive emotionally and also create harmony in our homes. So I was lucky enough to understand and study trauma, and I began to see that what we need as humans is a safe place to unpack all of who we are. We need boundaries and holding, but we also need empathy and compassion for all those big feelings that rise within. So instead of trying to fix my kids' problems, instead of trying to make them happy all the time, I just got down low and I said, tell me all about it. And I just listened. Sometimes it was tears, sometimes it was rage. There's a lot of complaining that happened. But every time my only job was to sit there and just hold for them. And what I began to see was this incredible emotional intelligence developing in my children. Now, I think the time where I realized that this was incredibly powerful was One evening when I was making dinner, I had to go and teach a class. So I'm doing the hustle that most parents do, where you're trying to make dinner quickly because I'm about to get out the door. And my youngest daughter, who was 5 at the time, comes into the kitchen and she's looking not happy. And I could see that she's got some feelings on board. And I'm like, I've got to do the dinner. I've got to get out the door. And I actually turned to her and said, honey, do you think you could hold on to your feelings for a few hours? Which, of course, as you can imagine, she just looked at me like, are you kidding? And then at that moment, my middle daughter, who is 10, walked into the room and she said, I'll listen to her feelings. And I'm like, well, okay. So my 10-year-old takes the 5-year-old into the bedroom and I'm thinking, I'm going to be late for work. I need to see what happens here. And I'm standing outside the door and this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing my 10-year-old say, tell me all about it. And then the 5-year-old starts crying and she starts complaining about all the things that had happened at kinder. And the 10-year-old's going, oh, that's hard. What else? And then there's more complaining and then there's more tears and then there's giggles and then there's laughter. And then they come out of the room and I see my 10-year-old and I say to her, honey, how was that for you? And she looked at me and she said, well, Mama, I just did to her what you do for me. And in that moment, I realized children cannot be what they can't see. How do we expect children to have empathy and compassion for other people if we don't show them how? How do we expect them to treat others with kindness and respect if they don't know what that feels like in their own bodies? See, I wonder what it would be like if we actually supported parents with tools and understanding to listen compassionately to their children. I wonder what it would be like if we actually helped parents unpack their own childhood so that they don't have to carry that baggage and put it on their children's shoulders. I wonder what it would be like if we supported and encouraged boys to cry and be vulnerable, and we encouraged girls to rage and find their voice and speak up for what they need. And I wonder if instead of harsh disciplines and punishments, we replaced it with compassionate listening, loving limits, boundaries, and we learn to look behind the behaviour. There is always a reason behind the behaviour. And I wonder what it would look like if we took all of that and we placed it in our education system. So it's because of those ideas that around about 18 months ago, a colleague and I set out to create Woodline Primary School. A primary school set in the Geelong hinterland on a beautiful farm with abundant nature. We have horses and chooks and veggie patches. And the philosophy of our school is around fostering emotional well-being in a safe learning environment. So research actually shows that when children feel safe to learn, which means they feel free of judgment and criticism, when they're treated with kindness and respect, where they have autonomy over their bodies and their learning, and they are given much love and celebration about the unique differences in who they are, then what happens is their neurological systems become fully operational and their capacity for growth and learning increases. So our aim at Woodline is when children spend time with us at our school, not only do they learn about the world, but they develop critical life skills, such as emotional intelligence, growth mindset, critical thinking, a love of failure, because every time you fail, you just realize, oh, there's just so many more options I haven't yet explored. And more than anything, they learn to become compassionate citizens of the earth. We believe that if we support children's emotional well-being, then learning becomes effortless and infinite. The great Sir Ken Robinson said that the aims of education is to understand the world around us and understand the world within us. But what if we prioritise the world within? Then surely the world around us would make so much more sense. How different could the world be if we place connection, heart, and compassionate listening at the centre of every relationship? Thank you.
Okay, so I just felt like that video was so inspiring, and it is all of what I'm about and what I am trying to teach everybody. It's really, really, really amazing. And yeah, I think, you know, if we all start to practice this and we all start to listen to our children's feelings, we can really, really make such a difference. So here is an example of holding space. I've got a clip here of my son, and he is 3 next week. Yep, so he's nearly 3. And he has quite a lot of emotions. He's quite a sensitive little boy, and he carries a lot around with him. And he's struggling at the moment to actually be able to say how he feels. And children will struggle with that anyway, but toddler years, they find it really, really difficult. So this is why they're not able to talk about how they feel. So they will show you, and then it will all come out as an expression of emotion, okay? So I'm going to show you a video, and it is, you know, it's quite hard to listen to, but I think it's just really important, because you'll see in the video there's actually a moment where I try and talk to him, and his rage and his tears and his crying escalates even more. And that is my key to actually think, actually, he doesn't need me to speak right now. He just needs me to be with him. So this is an example of how I held space, okay? So.
Mummy's just here next to you, okay, Harris? Mummy's waiting.
So you see there, I've given him a little bit of touch just to see if that will calm him, okay, and that will calm his brain and release that oxytocin. Some children, this may be a little bit too much for them. If they're so dysregulated and they've gone well past that, touch more will just send them, you know, they'll just get worse. So you need to be really attuned to your child and looking into their cues and what they want and what they need, okay?
I know it's hard, isn't it?
Okay, in this moment, I'm just saying things like, I know it's hard, okay? And we're not trying to fix it. I'm not trying to change it. I'm just telling them that I know how it feels.
Harris, would you like a cuddle? Mummy's here. Okay. I know it's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, so you could just see at that moment where I said that he just escalated even more. He didn't really need me to be saying that. So sometimes it's really about listening to our children and thinking about what they want and what they need from us. Okay.
You get tired.
In that moment, you can see that I'm labeling feelings. So I'm telling him how he feels. He's rubbing his eyes. You can tell that he's tired. I think the reason for this moment was actually mainly to do with tiredness. And obviously there was a lot of feelings going on for him as well, but that didn't help.
Come on. There we go. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, so can you see that I just waited? I didn't try to fix, I didn't try to stop. I just waited and waited for him to come round. This is not always easy and we don't always have the time to do this, but we need to just let them feel what they're feeling, and just hold space for them. Sometimes I may set a limit, like in the previous slide, the previous module, and I may get all of these big feelings coming out. And this is exactly what I do. I set the loving limit and then I listen to the feelings. But I make sure that I keep the loving limit, okay? I don't change the limit. If I've set a loving limit, that's the limit. And if this encourages a child to release all of these feelings and to tell me how they're feeling through all these tears and that in the rage, that's okay. And I'll still be here to listen, okay? So it's about being firm and strong with our boundary setting and our limit setting, but also really loving and compassionate and listening to the feelings. And it's absolutely okay for children to feel like this. If we've set a limit and they want to do something, it's okay for them to feel like that. So I've just wrote down numbers 1 to 6 of just little steps. So first thing you need to do is notice how you are feeling, okay? And breathe. Deep breathing helps, because if you're listening to your child's feelings, it's hard work, okay? And you could easily be triggered. So, and then also listen to their tears and their rage. Try and just listen to it, okay? Just listen, but really hold on to your own feelings. Notice how they're feeling and tell them how they're feeling. You know, you feel really angry right now. You're really upset. You know, I can see that you're feeling really worried. You might be feeling anxious. All of these words, and then empathize with them. You know, I know it's hard for you. It must be hard. Tell me more about what's going on. For older children, younger children are not going to be able to tell you how they're feeling, but they will show you. Offer connection, find a way to connect one way or another. This may be a hug. You may actually think, do you know what, let's go play a game, or just find a way to connect. Because what you need to do is you connect first, and after you've connected, then you can start to, and the child is calmer and more regulated, then you can start to discuss later. There is no point trying to talk or discuss things with a child who is expressing a huge amount of emotions, because you're just adding fuel to the fire, okay? And last of all, just wait. It's hard to sit and be with someone, but you're doing more than you know. You're doing so much more. So yeah, I just wanted to look at Touch Tames Tears. It's something that I thought was really good. So as I touched a little bit on the other module, but touch is really important for helping release oxytocin, and it reduces stress. And tears are healing. It's a natural response to big emotions. So when children cry, it's a good thing that they're crying. They're letting out these feelings and they're letting out these emotions, okay? Try to listen to the tears instead of trying to stop them, yeah? Listen to it and encourage the tears. Some children may not want you to touch them straight away, like I said before. So just staying close by can be more than enough. And saying things like, I'm here when you need me, I'll just be right here next to you. You know, just be close if they don't want you to touch. But touch is really powerful, especially for little ones. I mean, my two, he's nearly 2. Him, sometimes he just cries and cries and cries, and he gets himself so frustrated. And sometimes I just go over to him and I just gently hold him, put my arms around him, and I can just feel him just calm. I can just feel his whole body just calm, okay? And I don't talk to him. I don't say anything. I'm just there. My presence is enough. Obviously, what I'm teaching you will change depending on the age of the children, okay? Younger children may need a lot more physical touch, a lot more nurturing. Older children, my 7-year-old, when I'm holding space for her, sounds very much like the lady on the video, and how she helped her children. I would listen to her and encourage her to tell me more about it. And then we may have a hug. You know, you can do a lot more talking with older children, but the young ones, they don't need too much talking. They just need connection. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So when you're holding space, you need to, so these are some of the things you need to do. So you need to stay close by, be present, offer connection, play a hug. I've touched some of this on the other slide, but we'll go through anyway. Listen to feelings, offer empathy, don't take things personally, accept their tears and tantrums and allow the feelings to flow, and be patient and wait. And like I said, not limited talking. You don't need to be doing too much talking, okay? And here are some of the things that we really want to try and avoid when we're holding space with children. So you want to avoid saying things like this, because this will just escalate the moment, or there's no need to feel like that. And that's completely dismissing the feelings. We don't want to be doing that. Or stop being silly. That's another dismissal. Isolate or remove them. Go to your room. Okay, we don't need to be doing that. We need them close by so we can listen to these feelings and emotions that are going on. Okay, because whatever it is, it's important to them. It may be something small to us, but it's important to them. Fixing the problem, or why don't you try this? That we don't need to do that. Okay, children will find their own way. We don't need to solve problems for them. Dismiss feelings and stop them crying. Stop crying, or this is going to happen. Okay, because when we do that, what we're doing is we're stopping, they'll start to repress those feelings, and we don't want that. We want them to cry. We want them to share how they feel. Use punishments. Right, you're not having the iPad. Okay, things like that. We don't need to be doing that either. We just need to be listening. And try not to respond emotionally, like I've said before in the previous modules, the triggers. Okay, hold your own feelings. This moment is not about us, it's about them. Lashing out, this is all to do with triggers as well, and excessive talking. Don't need to be doing too much talking, okay? The hardest thing I find about holding space for my children is it can often feel like I'm doing nothing. I feel like I need to do more for them, but actually by just sitting by, listening and offering empathy and noticing how they feel and waiting is all they need. That is really all they need, okay? So next time you're faced with big emotions, pause and remember to hold space. Just hold space for these big emotions, okay? Now, I found a really lovely song, and I just think it sums up holding space beautifully. So really do listen to the words, because I just think it's perfect. And I thought you could take this away.
Your life's going down like a mudslide, and you're on the ground with your hands tied, feeling so dumb, and it's all wrong. You're locked into your indecision. You feel like you missed the audition for your own life, and it's not right. You view it from the valley and it's crowding your style. Everybody shouting out advice. You've been down every alley in denial. All that I can do is empathize. So I'm just gonna hold space. I know that I can't change it or go and make it okay. So I'm just gonna hold space. I'm just gonna hold space. I know that I can't change it or go and make it okay. So I'm just gonna hold space. I'm just gonna hold space. I know lots of talk would be worthless. The best kind of wisdom is wordless. We can just be, we can just breathe. The dark plays its part as a witness to the stars as they burn in the stillness. And it's you, and it's still you. I'm not gonna argue with your fear and your pain. I'll listen to what you have got to say. I'm not gonna guard you from the fire and rain. All that I can do is be a safe place. I'm just gonna hold space. I know that I can't change it or gonna make it okay. So I'm just gonna hold space. I'm just space. I know that I can't change it or gonna make it okay. So I'm just gonna hold space. I'm just gonna hold space. I know I can't fit in your shoes, but I can walk beside you. I can tell you when to let go, but I promise to hold space. I'm this good old space.